We're glad to have you with us. This is Business Incorporated on Channels Television. I am BC Adebayo. Coming up on today's program, Zimbabwe's inflation drops sharply to 2.3% in January from 16.55% in December. In Egypt, unemployment rate falls to 8% in the fourth quarter of 2019. Plus, Kenya's stock exchange appoints SCL Advisory to boost its data business and generate increased value. Well, let's kick off the program with numbers coming from the stock markets in Africa, which were mostly positive at intraday. Here in Nigeria, the All-Share Index was down 0.39% at intraday, while the JSE in South Africa was up 0.41%. In Egypt, the main index added 0.48%, also at about midday Nigerian time. Kenya closed negative on Friday. And in the Middle East, most Gulf markets were positive at intraday, except for the market in Qatar, which was down 0.41%. In Saudi Arabia, the index gained 0.55% at intraday. Elsewhere in the UAE, Dubai's index advanced 0.53%, while Abu Dhabi's index added 0.39%, also at intraday. We'll cross over to Europe now, where stocks advanced this morning, remaining just below record highs. And that was after China's central bank cut interest rates in a bid to aid its economy amid the coronavirus outbreak. Now, over the weekend as well, an annual security conference held in South Germany. And that, of course, attracted leaders from around the world. And the topic of Huawei was raised. Now, let's cross over now to the Frankfurt Stock Exchange, where my colleague Conrad Busin is standing by to tell us more about this. It's good to see you again, Conrad. Now, leaders from around the world, including the U.S. Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, and the U.S. Secretary of Defense, Mark Esper, lobbied hard against Huawei at the annual security conference. But did European leaders in any way listen to the Americans?
Well, of course they did listen. That's what the security conference is for. And I can tell you, BC, that there are many people here in Europe, here in Germany, who are very glad that we still have forums where the Americans and the Europeans are talking to each other, despite all the differences in opinion. But what I also have to tell you, BC, is that generally speaking, most European leaders are not convinced, not 100% convinced, that really kicking Huawei out of the market of 5G is really the right solution. Many experts are saying that it's possible to rein in the security risk without having Huawei thrown out. And there are several reasons for this position. Reason number one is here in Europe, we still have many people who are friends of free trade, unlike the United States. They say you cannot simply shut down a market. And reason number two is price. Huawei is able to deliver cutting-edge technology at very competitive prices compared, for example, to Nokia and Ericsson, the European competitors to Huawei. And of course, leaders, political leaders, have to keep in mind the interests of users, of companies, of consumers who really want to use 5G, the fast mobile internet of the future, but they also, of course, want to be able to afford it.
All right, Conrad, in China now, the central bank lowered certain interest rates today. What's the mood like on the European markets which have just started the week, and what's the outlook for the week?
Well, this has contributed to a bit of a positive sentiment on the trading floor here in Frankfurt and on European trading floors in general, because, well, today's decision by the People's Bank of China, the Reserve Bank in Beijing, is likely not to be the only decision about interest rates this week. Later this week, the next monthly loan prime rate announcement is expected by the Reserve Bank in Beijing. And also there, of course, a majority of people on the markets believe accommodative statements or decisions will be announced. China is at the moment trying to do all it can to prevent the fallout, the economic fallout from the coronavirus, and lowering interest rates, making financial conditions easier is one way to go. And of course, this is having a positive impact on sentiment on the trading floor. And you mentioned at the beginning of the show, we've seen another record high here in Germany. Our Deutsche Aktienindex, the German stock index DAX, shortly this morning on another record high.
All right, in other news, Conrad, the jury in the U.S. has awarded a major page grower $265 million in damages, and that's in a suit aimed at Bayer and BASF. Now, this, of course, is in retaliation to a wheat killer where Bayer already has to deal with billion-dollar litigation cases in the U.S. Tell us how bad this trouble is right now.
Well, BC, both shares, Bayer and BASF, are under pressure today, but Bayer definitely more so because those troubles with dicamba are adding to the problems that Bayer already has with the Roundup glyphosate litigation cases in the United States. Billions of dollars are at stake there. Obviously, Bayer underestimated the risk of all this when the company took over Monsanto in America for $60 billion. Monsanto is at the source of the problems. It produced both of the weed killers that all this litigation in the United States is all about, both dicamba and glyphosate Roundup. Even though if you look or if you talk to legal experts and lawyers, they will tell you there are significant differences in the legal evaluations of the cases. From an investor's point of view, what's happening is that all this increases, of course, the difficulty and the complexity you have to deal with when you want to evaluate the risk involved in investing in the company at the moment. And that's why we're seeing that very negative reaction on the stock trading floor today.
Many thanks, Conrad. We'll do this again tomorrow.